Our protagonist, Su Xiao, is jolted awake by an incessant ringing in the background. He gets up and wipes the sleepiness from his eyes, annoyed by the ringing. He looked around cluelessly, trying to make sense of where he was. It looks like a dark tunnel, but the walls are far too soft and have a cloth-like texture. He follows the trail out of the mysterious place and is blinded by the lights at the exit. He could have fallen to his death had he taken one extra step upon exit. As Su Xiao steps back, we see that the mysterious place he crawled out of is the space under his blankets. The cliff that he was close to falling off was the bed itself. For some bizarre, unknown reason, he has shrunk to 5 centimeters, about as big as a matchstick. His first reasonable thought is that he is dreaming, but slapping himself does not pull him out of reality. He also notices that he is buck naked, so it is no wonder it is so chilly. Fortunately, he has some tissue on his bed for a particular reason we can't talk about. He uses those to make some pants. As for that incessant ringing that woke him up, it was coming from his phone alarm. Realizing that he has some way to call for help, he rushes to the phone, jumps down on its home button, and sees that it has no signal. That might be the case, but he should still be able to call the emergency line, right? He dances around the phone's screen and manages to type the emergency numbers. He is so into it, and the number is so long that he accidentally slips off the screen and into the crevice between his bed and nightstand. As he falls, he laments dying in such a horribly depressing way. His fall to the bedroom floor makes a slight thump and knocks all the dust loose. It causes Su Xiao to cough for air, but it looks like he is okay. Because of his shrunken body, his air resistance has dramatically increased, like a tiny insect resistant to falling. On the ground, light is non-existent, and a weird noise is droning around him. He walks towards the exit of the crevice, and the bizarre sound keeps getting closer. He makes a run for it in fear of a lurking cockroach or something. When he finally gets out, the source of that sound reveals itself. A freaking praying mantis. Thankfully, Su Xiao sees the shadow of the grotesque insect before it slices down with its scythe. He manages to stumble away from the attack, but his tissue pants are ruined. The mantis continues chasing after him like a relentless killer as he finds himself seeking safety inside his croc's clogs. From the holes of the crocs, the insect's sharp blade starts playing reverse whack-a-mole. It wounds Su Xiao's arms and then stops. As he wonders if the threat is gone, he looks to the side and sees the mantis find its way inside the clogs. Fortunately, his shrunken body can fit in one of the holes, making it out safely and trapping the bug. Thinking he is in the clear, he starts thinking about a hideout. But the praying mantis manages to get out of the hole and chases after him with a vengeance. He starts running while surveying his empty bedroom floor with nowhere to hide. After running for a while, he spots a used-up mosquito coil and some matches. He quickly digs into the matchbox as the mantis catches up and rewinds its blades. Before the sharp limb can slice him open, Su Xiao gets a matchstick out of the box, swipes it on the striker, and lights a torch with which he can stab the insect. If you played Pokémon, you'd know that fire dumpsters bugs. Waving the torch, he taunts the mantis for round 2, but it flies away in defeat instead. Su Xiao has become more susceptible to feeling cold with a shrunken body. His next survival move is to tear off some tissue from his pants and make a ragged shirt to stave off the cold. He could only blame himself for renting an old suburban house plagued with insects. Su Xiao takes a few more matchsticks and tears some sheets of match strikers to use as his fire starter belt. The next problem is food. Luckily, he has some cookies left beside his bed from last night. A spot that is way too high to climb, but he has no other choice. He needs food for sustenance and to avoid freezing to stave off the rapid loss of body temperature. He manages to scale the unscalable using his fan's power cord as a rope. When he gets there, his cookies are being carted off by an army of ants. When they see him, they start turning their attention to Su Xiao. His idea of bringing some matches pays off immediately. He uses the torch to stave off the pesky ants. Then he takes some crumpled tissue paper nearby, lights it up, and kicks it to the ants. It is a successful clearing operation that makes it possible to break off some cookie crumbs to eat. But the ants come back more aggressive than before. They start crawling all over his body. He has to use another one of his matchsticks to keep them away and retreat to safety. But the ants drive him to the edge of the nightstand. Su Xiao immediately throws the matchstick torch to the critters, holds the cookie crumb firmly with his mouth, and uses the charger cable as a zip line with the help of the last matchstick. He successfully zip lines back to the bed as the ants retreat. Those bastards were just trying to protect their food, not to eat sushi for dinner. Since he's back on his phone's spot, he calls the landlord next door for help. He goes to the voice recorder app on his phone and starts recording his desperate shout for help. He plays that recording repeatedly for a long time, but it doesn't pay off. It has since turned dark now as night crept in. Su Xiao wants to use the light on his phone screen to fend off nightlife creatures, but he is too late. A big-ass mosquito has already latched itself on his back, draining his blood. Su Xiao freaked out and swiped the mosquito away. He turned around and saw a buzzing army of bloodsuckers in the air. This led to another chase that he managed to avoid by going back under the blanket and sealing the entrance. The mosquito bite immediately started hurting and itching. Furthermore, there's not a lot of air under the blanket, and he started having a hard time breathing. He tore some more tissue from his clothes and made a mask to sneak some air from the outside. But the mosquitoes were too persistent, camping outside the blanket. With no other choice, Su Xiao decided to ditch the suffocating blanket and run for his life. He headed for his last matchstick near the phone. He struck it lit and waved the torch around to repel the bugs. Su Xiao waved it a little too hard, breaking off the tip. With no more fire to stave them off, the mosquitoes sucked him dry like a free blood bag. This couldn't go on any longer. Su Xiao remembered that he had some mosquito coils lying around somewhere. He swiftly turned to the edge of the bed and jumped down, parkouring to the floor, expecting that the fall wouldn't harm him, and it didn't. His target was the box of mosquito coils. He broke off a tiny piece and lit it up with the matches nearby. His bold plan succeeded, and he should be safe now. Right? Wrong. This dude got ripped off and bought some fake mosquito coils. The mosquitoes were more afraid of matchstick flames than the coil smoke. Su Xiao did some more cardio and found himself in another furniture crevice. The sound of mosquito buzzes was replaced with chirping. He thought it was a mouse, but it turned out to be a baby lizard locked on as prey by the praying mantis. Su Xiao wanted to use this opportunity to end this hateful bug once and for all. For this, he used 2 torches to bum rush the insect. The mantis had learned its lesson and immediately retreated at the sight of fire. When it rushed out of the crevice, the only ones left were the poor little lizard and Suzhou. The little fella instantly liked Suzhou very much. Upon thinking about it, he decided to eliminate the little lizard in fear of such a dangerous carnivore when it matures. The little guy jumped out of his stomp attack at the last second. He looked to the side and realized that it didn't intend to dodge his stomp. It was aiming for the mosquito nearby. That's right. The adorable baby lizard that he rescued is a perfect mosquito-killing machine. One after another, It precisely aimed at the buzzing mosquitoes using its tongue. Su Xiao made up his mind and decided to pick up the baby lizard. He tied it up with a string and lugged the poor thing around like a portable insect repellent. Su Xiao had a good dream that night. He was feasting on a spread of delicious dishes, but the dream was ruined when the roasted pork started licking him. He realized that it was just the little lizard trying to wake him up. He's currently down to the last little cookie crumb before running out of food. He turned to the side and started thinking about just how good a roasted lizard would taste. But when he tried to sneak up on the little guy, it won him over with its adorable antics. Suzhou chose to postpone his plans to eat the little fella until it got bigger and named it Barbecue. Barbecue liked his new name. Furthermore, Barbecue could do some nifty tricks. The little fella is pretty intelligent. They were playing catch the matchstick when Su Xiao's throat started hurting from severe dehydration. To solve this very pressing problem, he went back to the nightstand via the charging cable because there was a cup of water there. The ants were still there, and they must have sensed Su Xiao and his pet touching down. This time, he didn't panic and just tasked Barbecue to charge against the incoming army. While the ants were preoccupied with Barbecue, Su Xiao dragged the cookie tray out of the box. He needed to drink some water soon, so he used the tray as a ladder to climb the cup. He took off his tissue paper clothes and dunked the tray inside the cup to safely get down to the water. The plan was sketchy at best, and it led to him falling straight down into the water. He started sinking down the cup helplessly. Is this how he dies? Drowning in a cup? He couldn't rely on Barbecue to save him as the little guy was busy with the ants, but he underestimated this baby lizard. It bravely jumped down into the water upon seeing Su Xiao sinking. Like him, Barbecue struggled to stay afloat. For a moment, it looked like the too many friends were about to die from drowning. But Su Xiao caught a second wind and rescued Barbecue and himself. He thanked his little buddy for giving him the much-needed push to continue surviving. Prior to shrinking to 5 centimeters, Su Xiao was just an 18-year-old about to start university. One day, he woke up and everything had changed. The cold, hunger, and bugs have made survival extremely hard. Today, he managed to reach the landlord's door next door. He snuck in through the door's gap with his trusty pet lizard. He came into a very ordinary room, and the landlord was nowhere to be seen. Su Xiao had reason to believe that she might be in bed, so he climbed up the sheets. There was nobody there, but he heard a faint cracking noise in the distance. He walked through the sheet surface until he accidentally stepped on a string trap. It triggered toothpick spears coming at him from multiple angles. Su Xiao did his best to dodge the incoming traps and succeeded, for the most part, balancing himself to avoid triggering any more of these toothpick launchers. Unfortunately for him, Barbecue decided to mess around and triggered all the remaining tripwires. At that point, his best option was to minimize the incoming damage. Luckily, he managed to avoid any severe injuries, but the toothpick spears pinned him to the soft ground. At first, he thought that the landlord must be responsible for his shrinking and was now playing tricks on him. But that hypothesis was immediately proven wrong when another shrunken person came up to him soundlessly and put a toothpick spear against his neck. It was his landlord, a young woman named Li Shui. Both had been reduced to 5 centimeters, and some tissue paper was used to make makeshift clothes. When they calmed down and lowered their weapons, Li Wei explained that the traps were meant for mice. They're basically stuck with the same problem. Li Shu grew up in this complex, and she had never encountered any serious issues, but they have nothing in common, aside from residing in the same complex and shrinking down, as she had more important tasks, such as rearming the mousetraps. Liu walked away from Su Ha. He wanted to help her with setting up the traps. And she didn't oppose the idea. The two headed out for the middle of the bed and repaired the mice countermeasures. Susha messed up quite a bit. But it's all good. He wanted to ordinate an effort to call for help. But she was more concerned with survival and resources, as she didn't have enough to feed a second mouth for free. At that moment, Barbecue started chirping at something ahead. It was a beetle that found itself on the bed. Sushia wanted to take this chance to prove his value, but Luwei was already rushing towards the insect with her toothpick spear. She maneuvered around the immobile beetle and landed an impressive killing stab on its back. It looks like they should be set for protein. For a while, with beetle meat, the two dragged away their hunting spoil when the mosquitoes in the room took note of their presence. The night passed quietly in Sua's pathetic tent. He woke up at around 6:30 in the morning. Last night, the landlord shared some beetle meat, but today he'd have to take care of his own food. He took this chance to show that he's not just a freeloader using the shell of the beetle. He collected some water near the fences and proudly presented it to Leu, but she explained that the D on those anti-theft fences isn't clean and could make someone sick. Getting sick now would be a death sentence. His other idea was to pull some supplies from his room. Lu agreed to join him in collecting some resources. Susho knew for sure that he still had half a glass of clean drinking water on his nightstand, but when they got there, the cup was tipped over, and the water spilled. Even the matchbox he was depending on was ruined. They went back to Liu's room as Sushia lamented the sabotage of his personal supplies. There wasn't much time to feel frustrated, as something just touched the wire traps. It turned out that the vermin had come out. The rat she'd been preparing for had made its way to the bed. They both knew that their remaining food must be secured. Their rules were clear. Liwei would handle the rat, and Sushia would save the food with her impeccable athleticism. She managed to play with the rat and catch its attention. She could have gotten away if not for its long-reaching tail. The tail whip launched her barreling away from the bed. Susha, on the other hand, continued running with the supplies. He led the rat toward the tripwires. They immediately launched the toothpick, spears lodging themselves in the pest. The rat was forced to retreat as Sushia got some time to stop and gasp for air. He went around the perimeter shouting for Lei. Thankfully, she came out of that critical hit. Fine, today was a tough day. Lady Landlord was starting to change her tone, as she willingly gave her tenants some food to recharge. They knew that the rat would come back, and their food and water wouldn't last long.